How is everybody doing today? Welcome to the Sounds Like Liberty podcast.
Hello.
I'm your host, Nikki P, here as always with my lovely wife and co-host, Lizzie. How you doing today, Lizzie?
I'm here.
This is episode number 57 with the Launchpad Media, always launching ideas in your direction. We got ourselves a fun one today.
Indeed.
We had on the Governing Ourselves podcast today.
Yes.
It was fun. They are a atheist libertarian podcast.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Well, I'm excited for you because we had, those conversations where you weren't sure if all the other libertarians out there were, going to be church folks, whatnot. So
Assume they are all church folks. So, well, without further ado, let's get into our interview with Governing Ourselves. Welcome to the Sounds Like Liberty podcast.
Bum-ba-da-bum.
I'm Nick here with my lovely wife and co-host Liz.
That's me.
How are you folks doing today?
We're doing fantastic. We're happy to be here.
We are here with Adam and Lisa of the Governing Ourselves podcast.
Hi.
Hello.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about your what you guys do?
Go ahead, Lisa.
Okay. Our podcast is, our background, Adam used to be Democrat. I used to be Republican. Both of us used to be members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And now we're both libertarians and we're both atheists. And so Adam wanted to start a podcast where we talk about both of those themes together. Because, atheism and libertarianism often go hand in hand. The philosophies blend together pretty well.
Yeah. We had started out with essentially a series of just conversations between the two of us because we were going through sort of a similar experience at the same time or around the same time. I think Lisa jumped into atheism a little sooner than I did, but it wasn't a lot sooner. And so, we kind of reached out to each other in a way. And, it definitely, just speaking for myself, it kind of helped me come to grips with what I was doing, what I was feeling, and all that stuff. So
I've long said that libertarianism is the world's greatest self-help course. That forcing you to take responsibility for yourself really makes you get things in order.
Yeah.
I think that's really the key word is responsibility, right? What really, even conservatives are going to talk big about responsibility. They're not always consistent, but it's at least in the...
You say that as if there's times when they are consistent.
Well, what I'm saying is that there are times where they at least talk about responsibility, right? It's one of their key terms. It's just that we do see the disconnect, right?
Mm-hmm. So. Right on. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background, Lisa?
In what?
I don't know, anything. What do you do? Let's find out who Lisa is.
Well, I'm a homemaker. I graduated with a bachelor's degree in international relations.
Ooh.
And I don't use it.
And she said she was a former Republican, so I just hear neocon and everything.
Well, I was a Republican because my parents were, and I figured, I was 18. I figured they knew more about politics than I did, so so I'll just be what they are. But then I graduated to the Constitution Party once I discovered that back in, I think it was 2008.
About the time that somebody would do that.
Yeah. And then I've only been a libertarian for probably 2 or 3 years.
That's about as long as I...
It hasn't been that long. Adam's been into it way longer than I have. And so he knows a lot more about the economic stuff, politics.
How did you find your way here? I'm curious about.
Where?
To-
Libertarianism?
yeah. How did you like? What was your moment, so to speak?
I think my moment was when I found out about Edward Snowden.
Ooh, that's a rough one.
And the stuff that he revealed about our government spying on us. And I think that's kind of what tipped it for me was the huge invasion of privacy. And I was like, nope, government's too big. They're spying on us and they're lying about it. No.
Right on. I mean, yeah, that seems like a moment that I would be surprised if more people didn't react that way.
Well, I mean,
A lot of people don't know about it, I think.
most people don't care.
Yeah,
That too.
that's just
That's the thing that really
disappointing.
frustrates me.
Yeah.
We
There's a big implication as to what it would mean, to be more consistent with fighting against that, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's in that same vein. So like I have a friend who has bought pretty hard into the "we've never landed on the moon" thing.
Oh boy.
And I'm gonna be honest with you. If you were to just go off of what NASA says, I don't think we did either. But the implications of accepting that and what that would mean to American society and perhaps global civilization, I don't know that I want to know what effect that would have on the planet either. Because
Yeah, that would be rough.
Finding
just
out-
psychologically.
just finding out that a lie of that magnitude was perpetuated for what, 60 years?
Yeah, and where did all that money go?
And some of the excuses, that NASA has is, oh well, we lost that,
yeah,
we lost the technology.
right.
How? Wait, NASA is there ever been a point in history where technology has gone backwards other than like societal collapse? What do you mean you lost the technology? We don't have computers now. Like they can get us to the moon. So it's like their excuse. I think the most recent I heard is, oh, we didn't lose them. We sold them to an intern.
Because that makes more sense.
And these are the lines of defense coming from NASA, and you're like, if I just have you guys to go on, I don't know.
Yeah.
You're like, you're not inspiring much hope here,
Yeah.
guys.
I'm gonna keep believing because the implications are things I don't want to deal with. But, so, anyways, we are a music podcast, and we haven't talked about it much so far. What would you guys classify your musical tastes as?
Adam, you go first.
Oh, okay. The older I get, the slower my music gets, for sure. I used to be
This is
like
honest.
really, I used to be really into like metal and stuff, and then I went to like classic rock, and I still love classic rock, for sure. Like stuff from the 70s and 80s. Now I'm getting into like Bob Dylan and like Gordon Lightfoot. You're like really chilled out, skillful, dare I say artisanal, pieces of music.
And here
Yeah,
I was
love-
just gonna
Dylan.
assume that they legalized weed in whatever state you live in.
Yeah, I went through my Pink Floyd phase, right? But I mean, not that I don't still love them, but like I say, when you get kids and like you get old and, you deal with noise all the time. And like my job,
There
it's
is
just
that.
noise. And, I just love quiet. There are times where I drive home and I have a long drive and sometimes I'll just turn everything off.
Mm-hmm.
And I just like that.
Yeah.
I'm also really into Irish beer music.
Irish beer music.
What is? Yeah.
What's that mean exactly?
Like old folk songs.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Like Whiskey in the Jar or like,
I like Phil
was it?
Lynott a lot.
yeah.
Nice.
That is fun.
You also had a Rush phase for a while.
Oh, well, I mean, if you're a libertarian, you gotta like Rush.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Even if Neil turns his back on us.
Yeah, well, I think I discovered Rush from the Tom Woods podcast.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. Because that used to be his intro, right? Was
Probably.
the Tom Sawyer song. He altered the lyrics a little bit because he is, a Christian.
Yes.
So he is.
Tom Woods is the whole Tom Woods being a Catholic thing is really super weird to me. I
Right.
messaged Brett Veinotte of the School Sucks podcast the other day because he was talking about atheism, and I know that he knows Tom too. I'm like, dude, how weird is it that Tom Woods became Catholic? Because he grew up fairly like agnostic and not being into religion at all, but became Catholic. Like my entire life, I was brought up Catholic, and then kind of took years to wipe away the indoctrination that I went through. I can't imagine anyone like stumbling into that.
Yeah, like why they would choose to join it, especially if it's later in life.
Well, and especially somebody of like, it's not like Tom Woods is a stupid person. He's a very intelligent guy. So like, how do you buy into this, man? How?
I mean, he's really intentionally about being Catholic too. Like,
it
he's
is.
like the defender of the Catholic faith. Like
Like he literally wrote a book about Catholicism.
yeah.
wow.
Like a Catholic Ben Shapiro kind of thing.
Yeah, but which funny enough is one of the reasons I've always been drawn to the Liberty movement, because since I came in, and that's kind of the landing place that I came in, so many of the people that I know are all super, super religious.
Yeah.
And by and large, don't have a problem with me being a horrible heathen on this side.
You know, there's a central question, you know, when it comes to the philosophy, right? About like, where does good come from? How do you define good? Where do your rights come from?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So when you get deep into the weeds of philosophy, you can see where Christianity is attractive, right? Because you can just say, well, God, right? That's your answer for, you know, what is objectively good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's harder to point out what that is if you want to believe in an objective morality.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually fine with subjective morality.
Me too.
But I think that, you know, what is it? Natural selection plays a big part into like how we view our morals. But, you know, when you get into the hardcore philosophizing, you know, like, you know, a lot of people, that's where they end up with God.
Well, and here's the big question, because I actually had a nice discussion about this with one of my online friends the other day, in that I came up, I studied a lot of Joseph Campbell, and when you study Joseph Campbell, you start to see the cracks in like how this whole thing, like things that I thought were part of the Catholic faith existed for like 10,000 years before Catholicism was ever thought of.
Yeah.
You start realizing this whole thing exists at an anthropologic level. It's not something that is inherent, or it's if anything, it's something that's biologically in us to be this way.
Yeah.
And so to me, I focus a lot on the fact that like, I technically, I guess I would call myself a panarchist. Like I'm an ANCAP, because I think that's probably the best way to organize society. It's the only way that makes sense. But I understand that there's enough cultures out there that could never ever buy into that without thousands of years of, you know, change to the culture.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think a lot of what we have to deal with is the fact that we're just going to have different types of government, and you're going to find cultures that work for you. I just want to get to a place where we can all coexist, go our own separate ways, and just kind of be what we're going to be. I think so many of our issues today are forcing people to jamming Republicans and Democrats of today's place into the same places and assuming that they're going to have to get along doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, they don't get along.
Like that's not possible. You believe fundamentally different things about humanity, and it's super important to you. So you guys are just going to fight forever at this point. I'd rather you just kind of like, hey, let's take our balls, go home, and do our own thing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if we could separate, you know, government into smaller forms, right? Like I think that would work better, you know, in terms of localizing more authority, right?
Well, it can't
getting
work
more into
worse.
states' right. Right, exactly. So at least it'd be a step in the right direction, right? I don't know if utopia is attainable. You know, I don't think it is. And so it's just a thing where.
But I thought all libertarians were utopians. They all believe the best in humanity, and that we can all just work it out.
No.
Right. So I'm not sure warlords would take over, but I'm not sure they wouldn't take over. Right?
What I'm sure about is that they have taken over. So
There's an argument.
Just not in an obvious form.
they've got a 2,000-year-old system devised to keep us ignorant of the fact that they're already in charge.
Mm.
I mean, you can't look at what we do in the Middle East and go, oh yeah, we're run by peaceful people. You know, we're just
clearly not.
killing brown people in record numbers across the globe. But you know,
right?
No warlords here.
Right.
So,
right. They're wearing suits, so it's better.
Right.
Well, that's always the one thing that I hear so much about. What's his name? You know, we went over there and we kicked out and like we fight all of the modern leaders and then put the people that believe in fundamentalist religions in places in all those countries. Like Bashar al-Assad, while he may not be a great guy, is probably the closest. He's one of the few secular people over there who's not murdering based on religious grounds. So that's at least something.
Yeah.
Yes, he has his issues, but we know what's going to go in thereafter is going to be way worse. Just look at Libya.
Yeah, they are serious issues. I mean, but it's exactly the same as Saddam, right? And these are problems that you and I don't know how to solve, right? This is
of course not.
It's that side of the world to figure this out, right?
Well, I mean,
you just can't give people liberty.
Well, the fact of the matter is liberty is part of a tradition. As atheists, it's going to be an odd thing. We do have to grapple with the fact that the Christian tradition is part of what led to the idea of liberty. It may have taken a while to get there, but ultimately, it doesn't exist the way it exists here anywhere else on earth. And so while I hate giving the church credit for anything, at least in that, hey, whatever you did kind of got us here.
Well, I think the Enlightenment sort of happens in spite of Christianity, right? Like, we might have even gotten there faster.
Well, honestly, the evidence there is that the Enlightenment doesn't happen without the Christian church.
But that's one timeline, right? Like, if I really, we only know about one Earth. We only know about one timeline.
Yeah.
Is it possible that we get there through other means? It's kind of like
absolutely.
saying you can't abolish slavery without a civil war. It's like, well, actually, most countries did that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it is possible that you get there, right? Just that we happened to do it that way, and we have no other example.
Why don't we talk a little bit about this song I sent you right before the show?
Sure.
One of the things that we do in the show, and it used to be me and Liz would do this, but I thought it was more fun to bring in the guests and talk about it. And we actually look at some of the music that's taken in pop culture and see if there's a theme that we can get, for liberty or otherwise. The scale that we use is from Bob Dylan to Eric July.
Yep, with a stop in the middle for Lou Bega if it's not really commie and it's not really liberty focused. It's just kind of, you can shake your butt to it, whatever.
Yeah. And if it's complete commie trash, it's on the Bob Dylan side of things. Great of a song as he might have wrote. He was not doing anything for liberty whatsoever. Which is always rough because, libertarians are so into the anti-war ballads, and all of the great anti-war ballads are written by horrible comics.
By lefties. Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
We did an analysis of Big Yellow Taxi once. Pretty entertaining.
Yeah.
I'm one of those weird capitalist
Hippies.
Yeah, weird capitalist hippies. So,
just sounds like an oxymoron.
Well, you want to start us out here, Liz?
Sure. I sued Taco Bell because I ate 500,000 chalupas and I got fat. I sued.
True story.
Yep. I sued Panasonic.
Most of them are.
Right? I sued Panasonic. They never said I shouldn't use their microwave to dry off my cat. I sued Earthlink because I called them up and they had the nerve to put me on hold. I sued Starbucks because I spilled a Frappuccino in my lap and brrr, it was cold.
I sued Toys R Us because I swallowed a Nerf ball and nearly choked to death. I sued Petco because I ate a bag of kitty litter and now I got bad breath. I sued Coca-Cola, because I put my finger down in a bottle and it got stuck. I sued Delta Airlines because they sold me a ticket to New Jersey. I went there and it sucked. So, take a quick break here. What are you guys seeing in this song?
Well, I mean, it's pretty on the nose, right? You know.
Yeah, right.
It's you know, we live in an overly litigated culture, right? Where we shift responsibility from ourselves to our high overlords, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and from an international point of view, that's how the rest of the world sees us. That we are a sue-happy country.
Right.
We have a reputation for that around the world.
Well, and what's funny is that from a libertarian perspective, I would actually rather things be handled in this matter. Like I would rather if we have an issue with someone, that we deal with the issue through arbitration, through us, and deal with them, as opposed to a bunch of laws that do nothing but make money for the government. Like, one of the big things that I get on a soapbox about routinely is why the EPA is a bad idea and how it's never done anything good other than jump in front of things that were already happening. Like, it'll take credit for the Clean Air Act, but what people don't realize is that the air was getting better long before the order was ever put in, and it just kind of takes credit for something that was already happening because people don't want to choke to death, believe it or not.
Right. Plus, you have technological innovation that just leads you in that direction.
Exactly. These are things that just inevitably happen over time. But what the EPA does now, and this is the insidious thing that people don't pay attention to, is that whereas in the past, if they damaged me in some way, I could have sued them. I now no longer have that recourse. I can't get together 10,000 people in a town and say, you're dumping toxic waste in here, we want recompense for what you've done to them. Because they get to hide behind the fact that, they have one or two things. Either they're within the legal limits set by the EPA that were agreed upon by the people that they have in the EPA deciding how those things are run, or they paid their fines to the EPA for not being within the limit.
Yeah.
And it takes your ability to get recourse out of the equation. It doesn't matter what they do. They get away with it one way or the other. At least if we had the ability to sue, we could force them out of business and have someone who's going to manage the company take over. So they'd have to sell it to somebody who's going to do more of what we would expect a company to do. So,
yeah, well, in this song, there's no government
yes,
reference here. And all these things are very American. They're very consumery.
Yes.
They feel frivolous.
These are first world problems, yeah.
Starbucks, Petco, Coca-Cola, Taco Bell. I mean, it's a cultural evisceration as much as it's.
Well, absolutely, and to me, the people that I am seeing in this song honestly seem like the same people that are out there screaming for the $15 minimum wage and not understanding why economically that would destroy our country, or at least cause lots of inflation at the very least.
Well, automation would just speed up, so there's one positive thing that would come of it. I'd guess.
Start getting my pizzas delivered by drone. Is that what you're saying? I don't have to look at the guy.
Your pizza would be assembled by a drone and then delivered to you, and it would never get your order wrong, and you would get more menu options.
True.
Delicious.
But then you'd have people shooting down the drone so they could get free pizza.
True.
You know what? They would work that into the budget, right? They'd be like, okay, we're sending 2 drones just in case. It's still less expensive than paying a teenager.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be like Amazon where they mess up your order and they're just like, you know what, just keep it. We'll send you another one because it's more expensive for us to.
It's not worth their time
back.
to ship it back. I will ship you a new one. Sorry for the inconvenience.
Enjoy your complimentary crock pot and his apology, right? Like, we had extra of these.
and it's just factored into how they do business.
Yeah, I mean, even in Walmart, like, people will shoplift at Walmart, and they pretty much don't even care.
Yeah,
because it's all factored in, right?
So, dive us back in here, Liz. Some of these things are just so silly.
I sued Duracell. They never told me not to shove that AA right up my nose. I sued Home Depot because they sold me a hammer, which they knew I might drop on my toes. I sued Dell Computers because I took a bath with my laptop and now it doesn't work. I sued Fruit of the Loom because when I wear the tidy whities on my head, I look like a jerk.
I sued Verizon.
In the music video, it's like a thong. Sorry, go on.
I sued Verizon because I get all depressed anytime my cell phone is roaming. I sued Colorado because, I think it looks a little bit too much like Wyoming. I sued Neiman Marcus because they put up their Christmas decorations way out of season. I sued Ben Affleck. Do I even need a reason?
No, you don't.
If I sprain my ankle while I'm robbing your place, if I hurt my knuckles when I punch you in the face, I'm gonna sue. Yes, I sue. And you just sue, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So, the thing that, I really see about this is that I think in a situation where you have actual peers looking at if I tried to sue anyone for any of those things, it should be thrown out of court. They're all ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
If you're relying on community standards and you have to deal with the people in the community, are you going to look to Susie over there and you need to make sure that they pay me? No, you're gonna be like, well, if you allow this to happen, then people are going to hate you for allowing it to happen because we don't want it to happen to us. Nobody wants to be taken advantage of.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
I can't help but notice that there's some references to actual cases.
Oh yeah.
We've heard the story of the robber that injured himself and then sued the family he was trying to rob, right? But also, and I think probably more so, there's probably a reference here to the old lady who spilled coffee on her lap from getting McDonald's coffee, right?
Yeah.
And you can remember that this was a big story in the 90s. But the thing is while it was sold as this sort of a frivolous thing, she got 3rd-degree burns from that. It melted the skin on her genitals. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was way more serious than what was being touted to the public.
Oh, for sure.
It was totally horrifying. Now, whether or not
didn't it boil down to a best practices issue with the McDonald's company, something that they were doing that was.
Yeah, there was no reason to produce coffee that hot. It was just crazy, and so they ended up changing that. I think her award was what it was not even a month of the. I think it was a day of sales or something like that.
Yeah,
which is still a crap ton of money, but people really treated that as if it was a sort of a nonsense lawsuit, but you could definitely see where she was coming from.
And so in there, that's a good question. A good thing to think about is when we talk about the way that the rest of the world looks at it, we're also looking at that through a paradigm where the rest of the world is just used to resigning itself to whatever the people in charge want them to do anyway. It's nuts. If you look at what they're doing over in Europe, broadly speaking, with the internet and all of the laws regarding speech rights over there.
Yeah,
banning memes.
Did you guys follow the Count Dankula situation at all?
Yeah.
You're just your head how is any of this possible? People don't revolt over this? This is insane.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's odd.
Well, I think that the concept of revolt is a lot harder now, right? Even this Area 51 thing that's happening right now.
It's hilarious.
It's essentially a big joke, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, and it's funny because we basically know we have no chance, right? It was one thing at the American Revolution to try something where you essentially have the same tools as your opponent, and they're greatly inconvenienced by coming at you. It's another thing to deal with the technological,
I'm going to push back on that, actually.
Go ahead. Yeah.
And the reason I'll push back on that is because rice farmers in Vietnam managed to keep Americans from winning a war with all that technological advancement they had.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been in Afghanistan fighting goat herders for 20 plus years.
Right. Well, there's some problems with both of those situations. So, in both cases, they're not nice enough to wear a uniform to let you know who they are. Right. Second of all, neither one of those are declared wars. And third, you don't have full.
Oh, no, I agree.
you don't have full buy-in for the effort, right? These are all undeclared strikes and attacks.
And
right?
this is actually gonna hit you guys in a couple. So you're correct. Do you guys follow New York politics at all, like the state of New York?
No.
The only thing I know about is like AOC kicking out Amazon.
Yeah. Well, so if you don't know, New York has a thing that they passed a number of years ago called the SAFE Act. It's some of the most restrictive gun rights in the country.
Right.
That they passed. And in the western part of the state, all of their sheriffs said, well, we're not going to enforce this. So good luck with that.
Mhm.
Right.
Because in all of these scenarios where people imagine the government actually mobilizing against people, they forget the fact that those people that are fighting, like those standing armies, which while they're cool to do certain things that you can get them to do, like the drug war, they still think of themselves as Americans. And it's going to be very difficult to turn them against people, like turn them against like their family members as easily as people think
for
it
sure.
is. So I think the idea that, and so if they lose that, then their next option is, they have to go. This is the thing. I believe you guys missed this when you were talking about your debate recap. I think you were talking about who Eric Swalwell was, and if you guys don't believe this got brought up, and I was screaming at my phone when I was listening. Eric Swalwell was involved in a Twitter exchange over gun rights because that's his big thing. He is the guy who said, well, if you guys fail to bring in your guns, we've got nukes. More of them than I'd like.
God.
But he's a sitting congressperson who threatened Second Amendment activists with nuking them.
Right.
I hadn't heard about
And
that.
that's
Yeah,
his
I didn't
claim
know.
to fame. So,
Yeah, I didn't know who he was, period.
Well,
I
and I
just
think-
thought he was.
other
Yeah.
than people that are like really tied into the 2A community or like hardcore like online libertarians, I don't think anybody did. But there's literally a Twitter exchange saying, look, if you guys don't hand in your guns, like you want to escalate this to war, I mean, we've got nukes and you don't. So, and the idea of a sitting congressperson saying that to American citizens, the fact that like that alone doesn't cause revolt, like I don't know what hope we've got to get people to care enough about any of this.
Well, and that's the thing about the Area 51 thing is that if the rest of us have heard about it, so has the government. And so, that's another major difference between that and what people have done in the past is that,
I think it'd be successful.
People can organize easier because of the internet, but the government can also know about it beforehand easier.
Oh, for
because of
sure. But that's the thing. I don't think that they have any need to fight anyone. They'll just get in there and it's going to be empty. because they've got enough lead time that if there was anything to get out, it's out.
Right. And they've got other places around the country, I'm sure.
Yeah. Shrek 5 has long gone, right? Like you're not going to find it.
Well, and one of the other things in regards to, like, say, the government attacking us is that there's been a few recent incidences like the Bundys where there have been actual standoffs between citizens and the government, and they've actually won in court in certain circumstances. It's very difficult optics-wise for... they can't do Waco anymore. Like they can't just go bomb a bunch of innocent people and then say, "Oh no, they were running guns," and wipe all the evidence away when people can't see because there's too many cell phone videos. Like that, that world, whether or not they could stop it, they can't stop it anymore. When you've got the Bundys holding a stand at an actual government building saying, This is bullshit and we're not going to take it. There's enough people standing around cell phones that they can't just do what they would have done and bring in the Army Rangers, wipe them out, and say, "Oh, they fired on us and they killed all themselves. It was suicide by cop."
Well, it's also a scenario where the Bundys were essentially right? They were getting really screwed over.
Oh no, absolutely.
And I think that if you factor in optics, like you say. I think that that's basically the way you fight because in a straight up confrontation, if they really wanted to kill them, they could have.
Oh, absolutely. But they don't win that. Because
here's the other hard part about running a revolt is that, we have given up our freedom for convenience. Right. And so, the fact that you and I are talking online right now,
Oh yeah.
The fact that we use, Google technology, we use Facebook. Yeah, how could you even organize something without tipping them off immediately?
Well, and look what they've done, because a lot of the revolts that have happened in other countries were like via Twitter, and they like in Iran, like they've done a lot of things to put those down. You look over in China, and all dissent is monitored via the apps that they use over there.
Yeah.
So yeah, all your communication is being watched. Well, I mean, I don't know if you guys have you ever had any of your private messages get removed going to people that in Messenger, not even on like a Facebook wall, because it went against Facebook's community standards.
I don't think I'm important enough.
Well, I'm involved with some of the people with like Liberty memes and things like that. They've had private messages, like peer-to-peer, me to you via Messenger, and they've gotten kicked off by Facebook 30-day bans for messages they sent, not even things that anyone other than them would see.
Didn't they get perma-banned, Liberty memes?
Well, what that created was everyone starts a new Liberty memes page every time one gets banned. Another 3 start.
I noticed that.
But it's because and yeah, that whole thing in and of itself, in the way that they're approaching the whole social media issue, they're doing it so smart, and that's what's killing me. Is because had they banned Eric Crowder and or Steven Crowder and Alex Jones on the same day, there would have been we'd already have alternate things existing. But the fact that they're slow rolling it out like they are is keeping people from actually reacting to it in a reasonable way.
And protectionism also plays a part there. Google is subsidized, so that's really hard to it's really hard to compete with that. But I imagine one of these days we'll get it, I think culturally our bigger problem is whether or not Americans want to be ruled, if they want to be watched over, if they want that security because they've successfully been sold the fear of terrorism and that sort of thing.
And so much of it comes down to me. It's like, well, I all my friends, and I'm a hard anti-war activist, but for me, I don't think that the wars are the worst thing that we do. I personally believe that public schools are the worst thing that we do, educating kids that are going to believe in those wars for the next generation. Like, those are the what we do in the school system is what makes everything else run. Educating kids so they don't understand economics anymore, and educating them to believe that we have reasons to fight in other countries. If nobody believes those things, this all ends overnight. But
and I guess public schools used to have civics classes, but they don't anymore.
Don't have economics classes either, usually.
I've got econ and government, but they don't have an actual civics class.
Just the record, they didn't have an economics class in the school I went to.
Oh, yeah?
That's why New York's as commie as it is.
Oh.
Is
that where you're from?
What's that?
Is that where you're from?
Where I'm from is a complicated question, but I grew up in New York. We'll say that.
Okay, yeah.
Technically, I'm from Florida.
Oh.
Where are you from, Liz?
Texas.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I live right now.
Nice.
Oh, okay.
We'll be down there next summer.
There you go.
Very cool. Yeah.
We're heading down for Childeberg.
Now. What's that?
We're heading down for Childeberg, which is a libertarian meetup.
I was gonna say, you have to explain what that is.
Do I?
Yeah.
We're also supposed to be there for the Libertarian National Convention.
Yes, that's here in Austin.
Because I'm part of the Mises Caucus, and we're trying to redirect some of the messaging that we're getting out of the National Party.
Okay.
That we were not fond of, say, people shitting on Ron Paul. Well, while we still have, we have any music stuff we'd like to talk about these first-time guests with Liz? No, we're transitioning from an old format to a new format.
Yeah.
So usually this would have just been a barrage of music questions.
Well, I will ask if you have any favorite music that you feel like people should know about. It doesn't have to be like any particular amount of things, but if there's just anything that you're like, you know what, this is like my favorite musical thing, and you guys should know this exists.
Yeah, usually I'd ask for your top 5 albums, but people have difficulty answering.
Yeah. Those are like individual songs, but not necessarily like full albums.
See, I'm gonna guess she's under 30.
Who, me? No, I'm mid 30s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had
How old are you guys? You sound young.
I'm the same age.
Yeah, I'm just a couple of, well, I'm
35,
like
34,
18
right?
months younger, so yeah, we're all approximately the same age.
Okay.
Really.
But yeah, we all grew up in I think we grew up in a perfect time to make libertarians, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
We watched a weird transition happen culturally.
Yes.
That is true. That is true. Because we didn't grow up with the internet. We didn't grow up with cell phones, but they're everywhere now.
Well,
Yeah.
it's weird because like we did grow up theoretically, but I had T1 connection when I went to college. So like my adult life began with the internet, and so I've had it the entire time. It would have probably mattered, though I didn't have it for like my childhood. So I still have like the classic
Right.
American childhood,
Yeah.
but have the modern adult experience permanently.
Okay.
It makes sense.
Yeah, it's weird.
Hey, how's it going? Nikki P here. Want to support the show or just give a big middle finger to Patreon? Consider stopping over to supportsll.com. Members of the Freedom Choir get access to the private Facebook group and actual physical merch. Want access to the unedited raw interviews as they're recorded way before they're released? It's in there. Is that not enough? And you want membership to Freedom Song 365? It's in there. There's even monthly bonus swag for top tier supporters. So head on over to supportsll.com. Help Liz and I get to libertarian functions and even just cover the costs of making the show. If I'm not a good enough salesman, how about this?
Support my mom and dad and Sounds Like Liberty. Go to supportsll.com.
You heard her, folks. Join the Freedom Choir at supportsll.com.
So here's a question. The one that I probably would like to ask. Do you have, it's the soundtrack moment question. That's where we'll go with it. Do you have a song that you feel has affected your life? Like you have a solid memory that, is inextricably linked to us?
I do. In my high school, my sociology teacher, before class, in between classes, he would play music. And it was a lot of stuff from the 60s and 70s. And that one song, it's an anti-war song. Let's see.
Whoa!
Everybody Look What's Going Down.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
That one. So that one always reminds me
Buffalo
of
Springfield.
him and his class. And yeah. Yeah, that was a good one.
Stop. Yeah, what's that sound? Everybody
That's the one.
was even Stills was.
I feel like that is kind of like if you were making a film with a sociology teacher in it, like you would want him to be playing that song
Probably.
between classes.
And I'm
so.
hoping he's like an 80-year-old dude. Or I will say he's probably 60 years old based on this time period because he would have actually grown up when that song meant
Yeah.
something.
By now, he's probably in his 60s. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
How
He
much-
was cool too. He was cool. But yeah, I always remember that song and it reminds me of him and his classes.
Nice.
And how about you, Adam? What do you got for us?
Well, I don't think I really started appreciating music until later. Probably
I would
Best
assume
stuff.
since Tom Woods introduced you to Rush.
right. Yeah, it took a while. I used to listen to like those sort of like fantasy metal bands. And while they're fun, they're sort of meaningless, right?
What's a fantasy metal band? I'm curious about this. I don't know that I've ever heard of this.
I don't even know how to explain it, but like they're these like sort of European like metal, but they have like these sort of high fantasy elements, so like Camelot. You've probably heard of Nightwish.
I have heard of Nightwish. Okay. I'm like,
Yeah.
where is he going with it? He's talking Ella Vitae, like
sort of operatic,
Okay.
They would put some symphony kind of stuff in
so
there.
you're a power metal guy. That's what.
Yeah, but eventually I was like, this is none of this is like really resonating with like an adult version of me, right? And so I had to move on, and I discovered like AC/DC and Led Zeppelin and stuff a little bit later. But I did have Metallica growing up. And, not that they're particularly highbrow either, but, I really like the Black Album growing up. Don't Tread on Me, I think, is a fantastic song.
Megadeth's where you got to go with that.
Oh, yeah. Megadeth's great.
He's really good on the politics too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I'm hoping somebody is like bumping Hangar 43 as they're breaking into Area 51. That's all I care about. If you're gonna do this, you better be playing the right music when you do it.
Yeah, you gotta be pumped up. Symphony of Destruction is a great song from them. About the sort of military industrial complex.
Well, that song is. We did an analysis. I have a project that we do with some friends, Sherry Voluntary and Luke Tatum, called Freedom Song 65 Project. And every day I email out a different song, and we kind of look at the lyrics from a liberty perspective. And that one, I never paid too much attention to it. I assumed it was, anti-war. But the thing that song is really about is just about the basics and core of human nature, and how, like, it doesn't really matter who you put in that position, the power will inevitably corrupt them. So you could have the best intentions on earth, but ultimately that story ends only one way.
Right. And, that's probably not incorrect. You get into philosophy there, whether or not, like, humans are inherently good or evil, but, I think it's pretty clear that enough power will corrupt you.
Oh, well, and even if the power, like, even if you don't become evil, the fact of the matter is that having the ability to do whatever you want, like, even if you have the best intentions, like, World War I and World War II were fought off of the best intentions. We have to assume that those people meant good in what they did. Lots and lots of dead people to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of evidence that what we did, particularly in America, prolonged that war a lot longer than it needed to go on.
Well, you could argue that, but yeah, it's, I tend to have the opposite feeling about World War II, where, we don't even get involved with Germany until Pearl Harbor happens, and we do end that conflict fairly quickly. But did we do it through righteous means? I would say.
Well,
no,
and should we have ever been involved, and should that war have ever happened? Other than us trying to essentially blame Germany for something that was just business as usual in Europe for the time period.
Right. The Treaty of Versailles essentially caused World War II.
Yeah.
Right. And that's changed the way that we have dealt with losers in warfare, ever since.
Yeah.
But, that was probably the closest we've ever had to, like, a cut and dry struggle of good versus evil, at least, the way it's, like, sold, right?
Mm-hmm.
Compared to these non-war kind of conflicts that we've had that have all been rooted in corruption.
Oh, hey, we're just gonna hang out here and blow your kids up.
Yeah. Oh, that's another song I really like.
Oh, good Lord.
War Pigs by Black Sabbath. Politicians hide themselves away. They only started the war. Why should they go out to fight? They leave that for the poor.
Yes, absolutely.
I love that.
Well, and what's funny is that in like the broader libertarian scheme, like, I feel like libertarians get the shaft and people think, oh, you guys just want evil corporations to take over everything. And I'm like, I think you really misjudge what the whole point is in what we're saying. Like,
right. And you disempower corporations when you remove protectionism.
Absolutely. People think capitalism is greed unleashed, and it's like, no, it's greed preventing other people from amassing wealth. Like, yes, greed is the limiter in that system. It is what keeps people from allowing other people to have everything.
Yeah.
You have to make things happen to allow that to happen.
Well, we have a limited perspective based on our lifespan and our memory, and
oh, absolutely.
I've been reading Thomas Sowell's basic economics.
It's a great book, by the way. I heard you guys talking about
Been
it.
studying that. I have not gotten past the preface yet.
Well, you better hurry up. It's a pretty thick boy. But
In general, Thomas Sowell books are always amazing.
Yeah, it is really worth it.
His,
he
Black
talks about
Rednecks.
old companies that were in charge and owned everything, and like grocers but you and I have never heard of them, right?
Oh, for sure.
Because they went right out because they failed to meet with demand, right? They failed to change the times.
Well,
they failed to
But-
get prices
but
lowered.
While you
to
say
innovate.
that, like the fact that people don't notice what's going on around us. There's a point in time when Sears was one of the biggest companies in the world,
Oh yeah.
and they're closing stores left and right. They can't keep it open because they made the poor decision to not jump into the online business arena fast enough, and they were beat.
Borders, they didn't get into the e-readers, right? But Barnes and Noble did. And that was a big difference between them. Blockbuster Video, I remember going there all the time when I was a kid.
Blockbuster
If you looked at it-
laughed at Netflix.
They did.
Laughed them out of a meeting.
Yeah, and look at it now, you know what I mean? And but if you had left the government to be in charge of it, we'd be subsidizing Blockbuster Video because of its cultural significance.
Well, what's so frustrating is, kind of at Lisa here. Look at the Tucker Carlson and his whole fear. Like he's just drumming up fear of automation to people, and I'm like, but to believe what you're saying, Tucker, I have to believe that this is going to be the one time in human history against the thousands upon thousands of times in human history that technological advancement didn't make the world a better and safer and more affordable place for everybody. Like, I have to literally believe the entirety of human history didn't happen to believe your narrative that automation is going to ruin us.
Well, change is frightening, right? and especially, if I would be scared too if I was an anchor on like a mainstream television network, right? That's not going to exist in 20 years.
Well,
Right,
if he was smart, he would just be moving to an online realm like everybody else.
I've been helping my parents move nearby, right? And they're like having me help them hook up their cable and like all this stuff. I'm like, why do you even have this?
You can watch all the same stuff on the internet, then you only got to pay the one bill.
Right, exactly. So like I don't pay for any TV service except for Netflix and Hulu.
I haven't had it like actual cable for 15 years now.
Yeah, I haven't had it in my entire adult life
Like, so-
because it didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like, I went to college, anything I wanted to watch I could download, and then eventually all the TV stuff I would watch just was up on Netflix, Hulu, or Amazon. So
Yeah. So people always think it's going to be the end of the world, but you have to just remember that it's really about standard of living, right? The same argument against, things are too unequal. It's like standard of living's high.
well, illegal
Right.
downloading is going to ruin music.
But did it though, right?
Yeah.
So-
By the way, I'm a musician. I still
Right.
make music. I get to do it cheaper now than I've ever done it before because technology has made creating music stupid cheap.
And do you go through a recording company or do you do your own?
No, I just
It's not
make it in
worth
my
it.
basement. And then
There
I
you go.
release it myself, and everything I make is mine. Not that I make a whole ton off of it, but that's a me problem.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what musicians have to deal with a lot, and they have dealt with in the past. Rush is an example of one of them, where they're fighting their record label for creative control over their music.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's another thing that technology has been able to do. It's giving more power to the artists to create their music and to say what they want to say,
even
and
if
create
it-
a sound that they want. And they
even
like.
if it did it, and I don't, I don't think anyone is like, if you're gonna, music is a business the same as anything else. Although if you just want to
Right.
make it for yourself, make it for yourself. If you want to do it as a business, you're subject to the same laws that other businesses are. And I don't feel the need to prop up any business with crony system, which is what, like, say, the IP system is a crony system. You're telling people what they can or can't do with their matter. Now, the people who make out the best in this are the consumers, because ultimately we get more options than we could possibly know what to do with. Like, literally, I can go out and find music now that literally speaks exactly to me because there's so many freaking people making music
Yeah.
that there's just bound to be somebody that makes the exact music I've always wanted to exist already.
Yeah. What do you play? What instrument?
I'm primarily a vocalist, but I play guitar, bass, I program.
Nice.
Really, whatever gets the job done. Right?
I'm not a drummer. I will say that. Terrible at drums.
Okay. Are you a musician as well, Liz?
I have picked up instruments at different times in my life. I am kind of ADD about it, so I don't really play.
Okay. But you have an appreciation for it. At the
I
very
do.
least.
I
You
do.
married a musician at any rate.
Right. Yeah.
So, are either of you musically inclined?
I play the piano a very, very little bit.
Okay.
That's about it.
Well, that's something.
I love music.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
She falls silent. She ran from the pain. The end of the needle tapped into her vein. She's lost in a dream. Real life fades away. Incompetent prison. Fully entertained.
I love it.
Right on. I feel like we have kept you far, far along today. And we do appreciate you coming on. Is there any kind of plugs you'd like to get in before we let you go, though?
Adam?
Just since you're a musical podcast, I just have to mention "The Trees" by Rush. Right?
Oh, nice.
Just everybody should listen to that.
Great song. It's also not based on what I thought it was based on.
It's not about unions.
Well, what's funny about it is that, like, Neil actually wrote that about a cartoon, like a comic strip in a newspaper that he saw.
Huh.
I think the comic strip was about what the comic strip was
Okay,
about, but
yeah.
he liked the idea presented by the comic strip.
That's interesting.
It's one of those things. Is like you assume, oh, this is totally one of his Randian songs.
Yeah.
And that one, believe it or not, isn't necessarily Randian. The story at the end of it's the tall poppy syndrome.
Have you guys read Ayn Rand's stuff?
I have done The Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged. I've also done, I think, Capitalism: The Unknown Idea.
Okay. What'd you think?
I loved them.
Those are books that I'm interested in reading. So, but I haven't picked them up yet. So I'm curious.
I think that they're great pieces of feminist literature that
there you
get
go.
drastically overlooked.
Okay.
They're stories about super powerful women that all men want to be with.
Oh,
They're not warm, fuzzy women by any
Yes,
scope
they're
of
not.
the imagination, but
are they like femme fatales,
It's kind of
or just powerful?
they're just powerful. Like they don't care about you.
Literally,
at all,
Atlas.
basically.
Literally, Atlas Shrugged is about Dagny Taggart, who is she runs a train company.
Yeah.
And
I
runs the
think
most
that-
powerful train company in the world with her brother. Her brother, like the world is moving in a socialist way, and little by little, the country is picking off the bones of all the big industries. She is forced to watch as her industry fails and falls due to being picked clean by the government.
Okay.
Meanwhile, some people leave. And the whole idea of Atlas Shrugging is a big, long monologue in the middle of the book about what happens if the powerful that make this whole thing work just walk the fuck away. But Dagny, as a character, is just this uber intelligent, super powerful woman that went and made it in a man's world. Like, that's literally what this book is about. And the fact that she's not praised for creating that character amongst feminists would boggle my mind, except for if you don't realize it's never been about women.
Yeah.
It's always been about the societal change and that engine of change that they want to keep rolling.
Right.
Yes, I agree.
So
Yeah, I haven't read the book, but I watched the movie, and I remember thinking, Dagny is like an amazing character, and like I would love to be Riordan right now. You know what I mean? Like,
and if you've watched the movie, you're in for a treat reading the books because the movies are terrible.
well, I could tell they were not
There's just no-
produced.
there's no
Books
there's
are often better than the movies.
well, there's just no way to squeeze that much into, something of that.
I mean, they literally, it's just huge monologues, just getting these ideas.
Yeah, like there's
Across.
I think
Yeah,
there's
and you can't do that in a film.
You really can't.
well, I think what is the audiobook I listened to was like 18 hours long.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's rich, but
And like literally it's the you can find I think the speech online. It's called the Motors. What's the name of that company? I can't remember the name of the company.
Is it the one where the guy is talking about money, like the nature of money?
I don't know that he talks about. He does. I don't think it's who's talking about the age of money. He's talking about. It's a guy telling the story of this motor car company that watched these socialists take it over and what happened to the company. But it's like literally a 30-minute monologue by this one guy telling a story about this what happened to this company. And I think the guy is like a homeless guy in a train telling the story. Just happens to stumble across this person and it fills in this big blank. I like I said, there is definitely some issues with Ayn Rand's philosophy, but as far as like, I think that there's a great mythological structure that works in there about how great human beings can be if they choose to be.
Okay.
I think it's really interesting that you point her out as like feminist literature. I think that's actually really insightful. I actually really like that.
And it's you'd never hear that about those books. I'll tell you that much.
No, you would never would. And it reminds me of an interview that Jordan Peterson was having with one of these lefties. And they're always trying to like skewer him, And she asked a question. I forget who it was, but she asked a question like, "Who's your favorite female author?" And he like struggles with the question for a long time. And I'm just sitting at my desk going, Ayn Rand, say Ayn Rand.
Well, and I mean, even that, like, she's literally a refugee who escaped Nazi persecution or whatever. Like,
yeah.
And then she went and wrote a book that sold second only to the Bible in number of copies it sold. Like,
yeah,
can you be any more feminist than that? Yeah, it's a little daunting to think about, frankly.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, sorry. One last song I have to mention, and I'm sorry.
No, by all means.
Yeah, with "God on Our Side" by Bob Dylan.
Okay. I don't know that I've ever paid attention
incredible.
to that song. I'm
It's
more of a
actually
Traveling
played
Wilburys guy, personally.
Okay. With "God on Our Side," it is a great little anti-war song, and it is a very skeptical song.
He wrote a lot of those.
Right. So you go when the song opens up, you think you're listening to a very sort of wholesome, godly song, and then pretty soon you realize that you've been had. And I love how it does that, and it kind of just walks you through all the wars in human history.
You know who I think you guys would actually probably really like is my wife turned me on to it. What's his name, Liz?
Derek Webb?
Yeah, Derek Webb, who he's a Christian musician his whole life. And I think ultimately he ended up becoming an atheist.
Yeah.
But he has some serious lyrical work. He has a song called "The State." He has another one. The song I'm getting out of this reminds me a lot of his song "American Flag Umbrella." And it's always it fascinates me because a lot of my friends would be no king but Christ people, and they're anarchists of the government is just getting in the way of God's law kind of thing.
Right.
It sounds like Jehovah's Witnesses.
Perhaps to a degree. There's definitely some similarities there. But in the same vein, like those same people, like they're not looking to start a theo state. They just want to be left to practice their religion, and you go do your thing.
Okay.
And that ultimately is the key to me. And unfortunately, those hardcore Christian people seem to be far more in line with allowing people to live their lives than those people on the left of the spectrum. They want to tell everyone how to live their lives. So,
I'll check out those songs. It sounds interesting.
they're very very odd too. Like they're this ambient electronic folk music.
Are they from the 80s?
No, those would have been like, I think those are 2012 maybe, something right
Oh,
now.
so very recent. Okay.
Very recent. Well, and he's got to be pushing 50 now. He used to be in a band called Caedmon's Call that was a big Christian band back in like the 90s. And then
he kind of just did his thing and got more searchy and more electronic-y and
fell
more
away
different.
from the church. That's what happened there. And I'm always interested in people that have fallen away from whatever church it was that they belonged to.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's always an interesting story. Much like yours.
Yeah.
Yeah. We both fell. We both fell hard.
I guess the one question I didn't ask that I should have asked is, I mean, how did you guys end up stumbling across each other?
We knew each other in our singles ward.
Okay.
So, when you turn 18, you have a choice to stay in the congregation that you grew up in, I guess, or there's a separate congregation for young adults, ages 18 to 29. And so, we went to the same one. We lived in the same area.
Interesting.
And I was actually friends with Lisa's husband because I play D&D. I'm very into that stuff.
And so does he. And
so does
my
he.
husband, it was in our group. My husband introduced me to D&D in Adam's group.
Well, start up a Liberty D&D thing, people.
There we
Jeez,
go.
just get on it. I got no one to play with over here.
That's right. I can't help but want to, reach out to non-libertarians. I like dealing with them a lot. As futile as it may or may not be, I love the struggle. I find
You're better man than I am.
agreeing gets boring. You know what I mean? And I live for that fight.
Nice.
So I've tried to disagree with Adam more on our podcast.
I appreciate that.
All right.
Well, you guys
I
always
really appreciate
you always have an interesting perspective on things. And there's definitely been some things that I know I've heard you talk about. I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to go along with that.
Yeah.
In particular, like listening to the I think it was the book on the written by that Muslim woman turned Christian.
Oh, Nani Darwish, yeah.
Yeah, wholly different.
And there was definitely some points I'm like, I understand the desire to go hard against that, especially as an atheist. Like it's all a bunch of death cult to me. But there's also that part of me that refuses to kind of believe that one is truly any more death cult than another one on whole. Not to say there aren't parts of it. It's certainly it sounds like where she came from. But
she came from Egypt.
Yeah, and Egypt is definitely, it didn't used to be that bad. It is awful now in the way that the religion's taken over. And that's so much of that is understanding, like, I mean, let's go back to the Middle Ages with Christianity and make
sure. But that's exactly the point, right? It's about how religions, change and evolve, right? Christianity is largely very, very secularized in the Western world. It's like people, they go to church, but during the week they do whatever the fuck they want.
We have the Easter Catholics, as we're called, Christmas Catholics,
right? Yeah. Right. You go for the baptism, you go for the birth, the marriage, whatever it is.
You do the
Easter
big
and
sacraments
Christmas.
and ignore every other week.
Yeah.
And but during the week, you listen to the metal. And
there's the stereotype of the Catholic mob bosses,
Oh,
Yeah.
Every one of those mob bosses in all the movies was a hardcore Catholic and was living to do everything for mama.
Right.
And maybe that's just
that
me bringing out my own Italian culture, but
Well, it's also a way, of course, for the writer to get someone's inner monologue through the
That's
through the
true.
confessional,
Right.
right?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Always a convenient way of doing that.
But
Or
like I
in
said,
Tony Soprano's case, the psychologist.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm a big fan of what you guys are doing, and I'm glad I stumbled across your show when I was looking for libertarian podcast. So
Thanks.
I'm glad you found us, and thanks for having us on.
I like to have conversations. Like literally, I don't. If this thing never took off and we never had more listeners than we do, and we have a fair number of listeners, I would still do it just because it's an excuse to talk to new people about music.
It's pretty
and
cool.
philosophy and things that I like talking about.
Yeah.
And I think all too often there is definitely we'll just say, a smallening of the world that we live in. Because there's not that many of us out there. There's more than there used to be. Still not a lot.
Yeah.
One last thing, because we forgot to mention earlier. So where would you guys rate that song on the scale?
Oh, Weird Al song?
Yeah.
Yep. Where are we gonna rate that? I always
what
forget
kind
to
of
do the
scale?
rating.
Like how libertarian it is?
It's
Basically.
Bob Dylan to Eric July. and I don't know if you guys know who Eric July is.
I don't. I
Eric
know who
July-
Bob Dylan is.
Eric July fronts a band called Backwards that has a song called Praxeology. So give you a frame of reference where he's coming from. Hardcore ANCAP metalcore band.
I would say it's a little closer to, was it Eric July? Was that his name?
Yeah, Eric July.
I'd say it's like, for me, it's probably center, but a little more towards him.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna rate it with DJ Jazzy Jeff.
Okay, there you go.
We'll go with
I
that.
think it's like a lot of Weird Al songs. It's like, okay, on the face of it, you're making some points, but if you read beyond it at all, if you know
What's
anything more than the basic information,
What's
it's like,
funny
okay,
with Weird Al is that he's so good at comedy that I think he never he toes it really good. He walks right up to, but he never really crosses that line where he gets too preachy. Like even on songs that you might think are explicitly like, he never quite says the thing that he needs to say to really piss you off about it. He has a song called Trigger Happy that we talked about on
Right.
the Freedom Song Project. And it's clearly an anti-gun song. But it's because of how comical it is, you can kind of take it another way if you want to. In much the same way I'm gonna take it. Lyrically, I think like this, we can warp this song to mean whatever we want it to mean. Because at the end of the day, he's still painting all of these people as being absurdist.
Yeah.
But, we also can sit there and say, well, here's the value in what they actually do. I would probably, I'm gonna go Bob Dylan just because I know what he meant by it.
Okay.
What do you think,
What about you,
Liz?
Liz?
I mean, I'm probably closer to the middle with kind of a Lou Bega because I feel like he's not explicitly, pushing either way. I feel. I don't really think it's super liberty, but I don't
This
think
is
it's
just
super
you
comedy
playing
either.
defense for
Weird Al.
yeah,
possibly.
because you would do that.
I would.
even on the Weird Al scale, I'd say it's fine, but it's no Amish Paradise.
This is true. Not his.
I'm more of a
best
fat
work,
guy.
personally. Really?
What you doing, homeboy? Hungry? No, man. So which, by the way, I get to show my daughter those videos. Not terribly long,
yeah?
but it was hilarious. Introducing a new generation to Weird Al is always fun.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Yes. Well, the current generation's growing up with all of these parodies online, and a lot of them don't even know who Weird Al is. It's
I
like, how can
know.
you not know? He's like the father of
Well,
Parody.
we
original.
Liz almost brought some Remy songs. Do you guys watch the Remy videos on Reason TV at all? Remy is Reason's parody song guy, and he's got some good ones. Like I think he did. The first thing I saw by him was a parody of Toby Keith.
Oh,
Red, White, and the
boot in your
Blue.
ass or
Yeah,
whatever.
the boot in your ass song. Well,
Yeah.
he does it from the perspective of civil liberties and like the whole song. You're watching the video, and it's all the shit that they've done to Americans to try and go make us safer from terrorists. And yeah, you got like the whole song is like basically him playing an American guy getting felt up at the airport, while the terrorists with the AKs still just kind of looking around like, well, nothing's happening to me.
What's the name of
I'll send a link to it because it's funny.
Okay.
I've seen a lot of their skits and stuff. I love the libertarian Game of Thrones.
Oh, geez.
That was
The
that was really funny.
Libertarian Star Trek was good.
Oh, that one was also excellent. Yeah.
My wife's Trekkie, so that one was fun to show her.
Right in the field.
I think the best.
Which series?
TNG is my favorite, but I like them all.
Okay, nice.
I think
Yeah, I know TNG.
Yeah.
My mom was big into it, so I've seen most of them. I think.
Nice.
out of all the
Husband likes Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, see, that was my dad's favorite, so I've got a soft spot for that one.
Isn't
too.
your dad's favorite because it had the black guy in charge?
Well, yes, but it's also a lot more of a complex story in general. So
I think it's all soft sci-fi. So.
I know. You're all over there with Asimov, like, you guys.
I would like DS9 more if it was just about Quark and Odo.
Oh,
Like, it
yeah.
was literally,
They seriously
literally just the two of them.
needed a spin-off, just the Quark and Odo show.
Just Cheers in space.
Yes,
you know?
exactly.
Jesus Christ. I'd watch that. That sounds great.
Life at Quark.
Wow, this can get out of control. I'm sorry, we got the Star Trek.
I know. It's all right.
Liz is perked up. She's ready to go now.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much to both of you guys for coming on. I hope you had a good time. And
We did.
everyone out there, go listen to Governing Ourselves, the Libertarian Atheist podcast.
Nice.
Yes. Thank you.
All right, you guys have yourself a good Sunday.
All right,
You
you
too.
too. Thank you very much.
All right, babe. Well, how do you think that went?
I enjoyed myself. Hopefully our guests did too.
What do you think the takeaway is? How do you feel about Mormonism now?
Well, I mean, it doesn't really affect my views on Mormonism at all. It was an interesting conversation, but I suppose everyone's experience with anything would be different.
Are you positive? 110%.
I mean, that's my story.
Anyways, folks. Well, you go. Have a good day. Stop by, support SLL. Want to help keep things going, keep the lights on, or just you go and enjoy. SoundsLikeLiberty.com. Got lots of fun stuff up on there in the show notes.
We do.
So, anyways, take it easy.
Cling to your rule and work till your heart